Welcome to the Life of a Marketer podcast. And on today's podcast, we have Helena Kelly. Helena, I am so glad to have you on the podcast today. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Jared. I'm so grateful to be here. So yes, Helena Kelly. I am co-founder of a marketing agency called Sagely & Co. And we provide go-to-market strategy and execution for emerging and established B2B tech businesses, really those that are still in their infancy and that growth phase, typically between Series A and Series C, who really just need help, standing out from the crowd and positioning themselves in today's super busy and crowded environment.
Awesome. All right. What tell us a little bit more. Let me dive into that just a little bit. What kind of role do you have in that scenario if you're taking on a B2B tech company?
Sure. It's really multifaceted. So how we position ourselves is as a fractional CMO. And so we firstly like to just come in and, look at the foundation. Do you have a strong value prop? What does your positioning look like? How are you, mapping out your brand pillars? Because I think, especially for startups that are really just doers and want to roll up their sleeves, quite often they want to go right to the tactical and sexy part of marketing and the flashy and the shiny stuff, right? I want the social ads, I want the videos, I want a new website, I want to get some influencers. And we really have to kind of have the discipline to say, we get that, we're going to help you with that, but we like to take a step back and have them just make sure, like I said, that foundation is strong, that their value prop is differentiated, they understand why and how they're different from their competitors, and that they are permeating that messaging through all of the marketing that they like to do. And, this isn't the fun part of marketing. It's, like it takes rigor and it takes discipline, but like we tell founders all the time, once you have that foundation in place, it just greases the skids for everything else and all of those tangible parts of marketing and pulling all those levers, and it's going to make it so much easier.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. If you don't have a good offer, if you don't have a good if you don't have a good foundation, then it's lipstick on a pig, so to speak. That's
Exactly.
very true. All right. So tell us, what's the best thing for you about working in the marketing industry?
Sure. So I fell in love with marketing at a very young age. I just remember even down to elementary and middle school that I loved storytelling and, kind of explaining and describing and just figuring out what was unique and what was special about, a character or a story or a place. And so I just knew from then that I wanted to do, something that I could hone in on that skill. But for me, the best thing about being in the marketing industry is that it's always evolving and changing. It delivers new challenges all the time, but it also gives you tremendous opportunities to learn and grow. So when I entered the marketing industry, it was in the early 2000s. And back then, everyone was just competing for eyeballs, right? And hopes that you would convert and that data would convert into a profit. But technology has just changed so much. And so, we execute on all of these services online, right? Like grocery shopping and controlling our lights and music. And so companies are spending on big data and SEO and social. So it's like, again, how do we stand out with our product and our offering? And so just, staying in with that change, it's just super important. I also think too that with that is, the buyer's journey has added so many layers. So I talked about, initially just catching eyeballs, but the old model of marketing was just based on awareness, right? To get in front of the consumer with your brand or your benefit. And now the journey has just become so much more elongated, right? You have awareness and consideration and purchase, or attract, engage, and delight. And it's not a funnel anymore. It's a flywheel, right? People are hopping in and hopping out. They jump in and out when and where they need. And so as marketers, like we're having to stay up with that change and making sure that when we're producing content, that we're producing content for all of the specific areas of the journey. So yeah, I mean, marketing, you're always going to be on your toes. You're always going to be learning. You're always going to be growing.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I agree with that. There's always something new, especially now AI coming out. It's just crazy to try to keep up with it even.
Oh yeah. Well, and just too that it's multidisciplinary, right? It's like, okay, you have a lot of skills and interests as a marketer, but you can use all of them. And, whether it's soft skills or business skills, communicating, writing, strategy, like if you like data and analytics, to your point, if you like technology, you're going to have to get on that AI train, whether you like it or not. So, you just get to use so many different skill sets and you're never going to be bored. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. So what sort of advice do you offer to those that are in the marketing industry right now?
Yep. I mean, I'll go back to the core of the value prop is that it's not a set it and forget it activity. Once you nail it down, you always need to make sure that you're iterating on it and you're evolving it and you're refreshing it and changing it based on how the market is changing, based on how your customers are changing. Also, voice of client is an area that I think marketers really abandon. It's we spend so much time focusing on landing that new logo and landing that new business. And then once we get it, we're like, okay, on to the next one. But there's a tremendous opportunity there for marketers to turn those customers into lifelong customers, to cross-sell and upsell them, to turn them into brand ambassadors. And so once you have them, setting them up on a separate nurture track to keep them there and keep them engaged. I think, especially in today's age too, is prioritizing authenticity, right? It's like, okay, businesses are creating so much content and some of it's agenda driven. And we wonder like, okay, is that true? Is that genuine? Like what's true and what's false? And so really just being yourself in your marketing. And I mean, it's things like this, like hosting live podcasts versus having everything templated and recorded so that people can just kind of see that more humanistic side of you. And like, it's okay if it's not perfect and polished. Like your audience is more likely to understand you and kind of recognize that you're human. And so yeah, just filter in that authenticity into marketing because people really just want to know what's true.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. We did a YouTube ad video for the skippable ads for a company that does that has a like what do you call it now? The chicken stock.
Oh yes.
We had a guy go and part of it was he did it in Spanish because that was their demographic, and he pointed the camera the wrong way and he recorded himself making chicken soup with the chicken stock, and it was like 3 minutes long. This video, this grainy, really bad video. And so we used that as a branding ad and put it out, and I think we only spent about 3K on that, and it got like millions of people watched the video, and it was like 80,000 people watched the entire 3-minute video about their product just because it was just, I guess, because it was just so raw and so.
Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was like, it was raw, it was real. It wasn't what you expected, but you're making fun of yourself. I mean, I'm sure people just loved that it was just unpolished. And there you go, like prime example of just what being yourself can do and how that can drive engagement.
Yeah, and so that video was super super successful. It was better than the ones that we had that were polished. We had some that looked a lot better, but that one was the one that kind of took things away. So that's very true. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that. That was really good. All
sure.
right, switching gears a little bit. What are some other successful people in marketing like yourself that you'd like to acknowledge that should be on the podcast?
Sure. First and foremost, obviously, my business partner and co-founder, Anita Tilsiani. She's a marketing maven. She has a tech background. She started off her career at Dell and AMD, and then did quite a pivot into real estate data and analytics. And so we met kind of in that world, in that space, and we're together at a data analytics company for about 10 years. But like me, she is just so rooted in positioning and value prop and has just tremendous knowledge and kind of a template for how to take companies through that journey, but making it fun and making it not stagnant and getting stakeholders engaged. And, once they get on the other side of it, just realizing how useful of a tool it's going to be. Kind of just pivoting a little bit to, marketing crushes, I would say, or just marketers that, are more kind of prolific and popular. Who I turn to is, I love Seth Godin. He's an author of This Is Marketing, and he just really has a way of, helping you realize that great marketers, they don't use consumers to solve their company's problem. They use it to solve other people's problems. And so again, like his tactics tie back to relying on the empathy and connection and emotion instead of all of the attention stealing ads and spammy funnels, that people are distracted by. So I think he has over 1 million followers and like 8,000 blog posts.
Oh, of course. I've read
It's
several
really good.
his books.
Yeah, like he's just so great at just teaching you how to reframe how you're presenting things into the market and like what's meaningful and how to build trust. And I love also too, like he really kind of coined this term of permission marketing, right? That like, okay, people have to agree to kind of opt in and want to hear from you. You're not just like serving up all these ads and spamming them, that like once you get their commitment, like, okay, yes, I do want to learn from you. I see you as a thought leader. I see you as someone that gives me solutions for solving problems. It's like that old approach doesn't work anymore. And then I also love April Dunford. She's the author of Obviously Awesome, and again, just tying back to how positioning is the foundation of great marketing and sales, and it just has to be that starting point and that compass going forward. And she's really good about getting you deep into that discipline of, okay, it's not just who cares about you, like which audience and which potential customers care about you, but out of that subset, like who cares about you the most, and then also who doesn't care about you. It's like you can't boil the ocean, right? It's like you can't go after everybody, and you have to be super targeted and figure out which of that subset of your prospects and customers are going to benefit from your offering the most, and really just double down on those.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing those. I've actually never heard of her, so I'll have to check her out. Which is weird that I haven't, but I will definitely be checking her out. Thanks so much for sharing those. And then for one final question, just for fun, tell me the oldest technology you remember using.
Okay. So the first one that pops into mind is Quark Express. And so, right, this is like the pre-Adobe InDesign and pre-Canva days. And I mean, traditionally it was, the software of choice for graphic designers, but I got to dabble in it early in my career and took some classes. And, obviously for like those polished pieces, we would outsource to agencies, and, remember going to the printer and watching things as it came off the printer press, but it was just good kind of as a fallback for, design for pieces that maybe just weren't as more broadly distributed, or, that were more internal. And so it's just interesting. I was thinking about how our marketing tools and tech stack has changed so much, since the early 2000s. And I think now it's mind-boggling. It's something like 8,000. There's 8,000 MarTech solutions out there, and it's so overwhelming. But then you look back, to 20 years ago, and there were maybe a couple hundred. And so, of course, there's a lot of consolidation and those solutions that just don't make it in the world, or, get gobbled up by other companies. But yeah, Quark Express, that was the first
Quark Express. You're the only
remember?
We've done, I don't know how many, 40 or 50 podcasts now, and you're the only person who's ever mentioned that.
Really?
Press. I
Do
I
you
kind
remember
of
it? Did you
remember
ever
the
use it?
name. I never used that. No, no, no.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, the reason it died is because Quark's audience were Mac users, and so they were moving to OS and they just refused to go. So they just lost that entire cohort of people. So, yeah. So,
Interesting, interesting. I
yeah.
mean, I heard it. I never used it. Oh wow, Work Express. Okay, so we've had all, as you can imagine, we've had some crazy answers to this question, and we had one of our older people that had been on here that said the oldest technology I remember using was a transistor radio. So
Oh my goodness.
that
Yeah.
and then the first podcast I did was with my mom just to test it out, and she said the oldest technology she remember using is a pencil. So that was
Oh my God.
smart
That's
alecky, and she's
hilarious.
in technology. So
Yeah. Well,
so
I even think about now, like, okay, a fax machine, like sending faxes and like randomly getting ads through faxes, or like I have a 6 and an 8-year-old. I mean, they see like an old school telephone at their grandma's, like in the closet or on the wall, and they're like, what is this thing? Like they have no idea. So it's kind of crazy to think about. It just
they
things
used
like
to
that
send you
being archaic.
they would say, wait a second, you said they'd send you ads via fax.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I like
Yeah,
that.
like coupons, ads. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, like my first job out of college, like I sat right by the fax machine and obviously used it right to send, work orders and POs and invoices, and then like randomly ads would come in and coupons. So yeah, so
Interesting, interesting.
clever,
I did
but
not know that
not the
people.
way of the world anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I did not know. When I was in college, they already had emails, so there was no, people quit using fax machines almost after that. Interesting, interesting. All right, well, Helena, we keep our podcast short. Thanks for coming on. You were an awesome guest. Everybody, you can catch our podcast on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 11 something, never on the dot. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's probably the easiest way to catch us. If not, we stream it on social media across different platforms, so you can find us there. And that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. Once again, please like and subscribe. We want to get our podcast out to as many people as possible. This has been the Life of a Marketer podcast. Once again, Helena, thanks so much for jumping on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Jared. Good luck, and thanks again for the opportunity.